I thank Chairwoman DeLauro for yielding me the time. Mr. Chair, I rise in strong support of this bipartisan en bloc, which would eliminate funding for the VA Asset and Infrastructure Review, or AIR Commission, and transfer that $5 million to Healthcare for Homeless Veterans program. Now, let me be clear. The recommendations advanced so far as part of the VA's Asset and Infrastructure Review process will lead to the closure or downsizing of nearly 1/3 of this country's VA medical facilities and community-based outpatient clinics. I believe that is unacceptable and, frankly, a rotten way to treat veterans who have put their lives on the line for this country. This entire process is a backdoor way to cut services for veterans, and I strongly urge my colleagues to support our veterans and vote yes on this amendment, which has the support of a wide range of veterans advocacy organizations from across the political spectrum. This bipartisan amendment eliminates funding for a commission that would make it harder for veterans across America to get the care they deserve. The decision to recommend shutting down these VA healthcare facilities was based on totally flawed, years-old information. There are huge and unacceptable and inexcusable gaps in the data that was used to determine which facilities to shut down. The VA did not consider cases where hundreds of millions of dollars in new investments were made in facilities that were recommended for closure. It makes absolutely no sense. Let me give you an example. One of the facilities that would be closed is the Leeds VA Medical Center in Massachusetts. They said that this facility should be closed because it needed nearly $200 million in upgrades. What they didn't say was that we already invested in in the upgrades. $200 million in taxpayer money was already invested in this facility, and now they're recommending that it be shut down. Talk about ripping off the American taxpayer. The data that they use is from years ago. Yeah, it's inexcusable, years ago. And even the VA admits this. So this is the definition of stupid. We might as well throw taxpayer money out the window if these flawed recommendations move forward. And that's not to even mention the impact this commission would have on veterans. You know, I held a listening session to hear how these recommendations would force many veterans in Massachusetts and across the country. And I have a map here, by the way. Here is the map. The yellow is partial closures. The blue is total closure, all across the country. Again, what we're finding out by objective observers, all this is based on flawed, outdated information. And they're recommending they shut these facilities down. But I'm learning here that this would literally force veterans to drive hours and hours and hours across state lines just to get basic care. I talk to people with PTSD who are like, I'm just not going to get care anymore if I have to drive across the state to get to another state to get care. Older veterans who need nursing home care could have to move long distances from their support systems. This process so far is a complete and total slap in the face to these veterans, and we should not spend a penny more on a commission that's going to be used to advance these awful cuts to veteran services. Now, if this moves forward, closures and consolidation of VA facilities are mandatory, but recommendations to build new facilities are subject to future appropriations and are not guaranteed. So this Appropriations Committee will have to decide whether to invest in the new facilities or the consolidation of new facilities. And that is why groups like the Disabled American Veterans, Paralyzed Veterans of America, and Veterans of Foreign War all support shutting down this commission right now, which is what this amendment would do. Now, everyone knows that this process and this commission is broken. Even VA Secretary McDonough acknowledged it to Congress, telling the House Veterans Committee that the data is not up to speed in light of the pandemic. And I'm also grateful that the chairman of the Veterans Committee here in the House, Chairman Takano, is supporting my amendment. Now, I want to be clear that Secretary McDonough has done a great job in advocating for our veterans, and he's working with my team and I to get to the bottom of some of these problems. But this process started because of a bill that Congress passed even before he became Secretary. And I've spoken to him, and I know he too does not want to make it harder for veterans to get care. So the solution is that Congress needs to pass this amendment. Now, even our nonpartisan congressional watchdog, the GAO, recently put out a report on this called,
The gentleman's,
I quote, VA healthcare, incomplete information.
the gentleman's time's expired.
May I ask for an additional 2 minutes?
I give the gentleman 2 more minutes.
The gentleman's recognized for 2 minutes.
They put out a report called VA Healthcare, Incomplete Information Hinders Usefulness of Market Assessment for VA Facility Realignment. And I ask unanimous consent to insert the executive summary into the record. Mr. Chairman, moving forward with funding this fundamentally broken process would be an incredible disservice to our veterans and would jeopardize access to high-quality, specialized care that they've earned. This commission is being dismantled as we speak because the recommendations that made to it have been so catastrophically bad. Last month, Senate Veterans Affairs Committee John Tester led a bipartisan group of 12 senators to announce that the Senate VA Committee would not even confirm any more nominees to the commission, effectively ending this process once and for all. And last week, we had an amendment passed the NDAA to shut this down. So why are we giving $5 million to a commission that may very well never exist and which is actively seeking to undermine our veterans' care for our veterans and their families? Look, we all believe in upgrading and updating our VA system, but let's use accurate information. And there's no way that anybody here can tell me that the recommendations that are being put forward are based on accurate, updated information. We're talking about our veterans who are now going through needless anxiety because of all these threats of closures. We need to do better. I urge my colleagues to vote yes on this en bloc, and I reserve my time.